My friends, there comes a moment in every life when the weight we carry grows too heavy for our own shoulders. We wrestle with our problems, we fight our private battles, we cling so tightly to our own plans, all the while our souls grow weary from the struggle. But what if I told you that your breakthrough does not begin with your own strength? It begins when you lay it all down before the one who holds the universe in his hands. So many people walk through life bound by fear, doubt, and frustration simply because they refuse to release what they cannot fix alone. Today, I want to remind you that there is freedom, there is hope, and there is a way forward when you choose to surrender. When you give your burdens, your dreams, your failures, and your future to God, you open the door for Him to do what you never could on your own. That, my friends, is where your true breakthrough begins. There comes a time in every life when the heart grows tired from holding on too tightly. We clutch our worries, our ambitions, our disappointments, our fears, as if they were treasures that somehow prove we are in control. But if we are honest, deep within our souls, we know that our grip is not as strong as we pretend it to be. The truth is, the tighter we cling to our own ways, the more we strangle the very life we long to see flourish. Letting go is not weakness. It is the first courageous act of faith that opens the door to a divine breakthrough. Think of a farmer who holds a handful of seeds. If he never releases them into the soil, there will be no harvest. He can keep those seeds in his pocket forever, but they will never become the field of wheat that feeds his family. So it is with the burdens you carry. As long as you clutch them to your chest, you keep them from becoming the testimony God longs to grow out of your surrender. Some people have carried bitterness for years. A betrayal, an offense, a wound that never healed. These become like chains around the soul. We say, I can't forgive, I can't forget. But in refusing to let go, we stay trapped in a prison of our own making. Freedom comes not when the other person apologizes, not when the world rights every wrong, but when you open your clenched hands and release that pain into the hands of a loving Father who sees every tear and promises to make all things new. Others hold so tightly to their dreams and plans that they leave no room for something greater. We think we know what is best. We have our goals, our 5-year plans, our vision boards. But sometimes the very thing that must die is our own agenda. How many blessings have we missed because we were so busy forcing our way forward that we ignored the still, small voice whispering, "Trust me, walk with me, wait for me." Letting go of your plan does not mean living aimlessly. It means putting your future into the hands of the one who holds eternity. It means saying, I trust that your ways are higher than mine, and your thoughts so much greater than I could ever imagine. Then there are those who refuse to release their failures. You made mistakes, you stumbled, you fell. Now shame sits heavy on your shoulders like an iron cloak. You keep replaying the same regrets in your mind, hoping somehow you can fix the past, but my friend, the past is gone. No amount of guilt can rewrite yesterday, but when you lay your failures at the foot of the cross, something miraculous happens. What was once dead and buried becomes fertile ground for new life. You are not defined by what you did, but by what He did for you. Letting go of your guilt frees you to walk in the mercy and grace that was purchased for you at so great a cost. Letting go is not passive. It is an act of faith that declares, I cannot, but God can. It is the moment you stop wrestling with the chains that bind you and trust the one who breaks every chain. It is choosing to believe that when you place your burdens into His hands, He does not cast them aside, but transforms them into something beautiful. I have seen people who carried decades of unforgiveness walk away lighter than air when they finally spoke the words, I forgive. I have seen men and women release the idol of success and find that true purpose was waiting just beyond the threshold of surrender. I have seen addicts set free when they laid their bondage at the altar and trusted God to break the cycle. I have seen families restored when pride gave way to humility and wounds were laid down in prayer. The world tells you to hold on, to fight harder, to never let go. But the kingdom of God works differently. It is the upside-down way that says the greatest victory comes through surrender. The path to freedom is not paved with your striving, but with your releasing. It is the paradox that when you lose your life, you find it. When you give up your need to control every outcome, you gain peace that surpasses all understanding. Ask yourself today, what am I holding on to that is holding me back? Is it fear that keeps you awake at night? Is it anger that poisons your relationships? Is it control that suffocates your faith? Is it shame that whispers you will never be enough? Whatever it is, there is nothing so big that His hands cannot carry it for you. Imagine how your life could change if you would just let go. Picture the weight lifted from your shoulders, the lightness in your spirit, the freedom to run without chains dragging behind you. Picture the prayers that would rise from your lips unburdened by doubt. Picture the relationships restored, the purpose renewed, the hope rekindled. Letting go does not mean you no longer care. It means you trust that He cares more. It means you trade your worry for His peace, your striving for His strength, your plan for His perfect will. It means you stop trying to be your own Savior and remember that you already have one who paid it all for you. Today is the day to open your hands. Lay it all down at His feet, the wounds, the dreams, the fears, the failures. Do not wait for tomorrow may never come. There is a breakthrough waiting for you on the other side of surrender. There is healing, there is freedom, there is a new chapter yet unwritten. And when you look back one day, you will see that the moment you let go was not the moment you lost control, but the moment you finally found true life. For in His hands your burdens become blessings, your ashes become beauty, and your greatest surrender becomes the gateway to your greatest breakthrough. So let it go, my friend. Let it go and see what only God can do. There are moments in life when the burdens we carry feel heavier than our strength can bear. We wake each morning with an invisible load strapped across our shoulders, the worries we do not speak of, the disappointments we hide behind our smiles, the fears that haunt us in the stillness of the night. We press on because the world tells us we must be strong, we must push through, we must never admit defeat. And yet deep inside, the soul longs for rest, for relief, for release. I have met people who spend their whole lives carrying things they were never meant to hold. Some bear the burden of bitterness, clutching to old wounds like a shield against new ones. Others carry shame like an anchor, believing their past failures are too filthy for grace to touch. Still others bear the crushing weight of worry for their children, their health, their finances, the future itself, as if by worrying they could bend the course of history. All the while, these burdens sap their joy, drain their strength, and cloud their vision of hope. But there is a beautiful truth waiting for every weary soul. The moment you surrender it all is the moment your burden begins to transform into blessing. The world cannot understand this, for it makes no sense to lay down what you have fought so hard to hold. But the kingdom of God turns the logic of man upside down. What you release from your hands, God takes into His. What you offer Him in trust, He redeems in His power. I have seen this miracle in the lives of countless men and women who finally came to the end of themselves. A mother once came to me with tears streaming down her face. She had spent years worrying over her wayward son, begging, pleading, manipulating, trying to fix him with her own love and strength. She had exhausted her words, her tears, and her hope. But in that place of exhaustion, she found the courage to pray the simplest, most powerful prayer, "Lord, I give him to you." It did not mean she stopped loving him. It meant she finally trusted that the one who formed him in the womb loved him even more. In time, that son found his way home, not because she held on tighter, but because she let go and let God work. Your breakthrough begins when you realize that surrender is not losing, it is gaining what you could never earn through striving. Think of a farmer holding a single grain of wheat. He can keep it in his pocket forever, safe and secure, but it will never become more than what it is. Or he can drop it into the earth, surrendering it to the soil and the sun and the rain. He loses the seed, but he gains a harvest. So it is with your burdens. What you bury in trust, God raises in blessing. There is a reason the scriptures speak so often of casting your cares, laying down your burdens, coming to him for rest. He knows how heavy life can feel. He does not ask you to carry it all. He invites you to come as you are, weary and worn, and place it all in his hands. Those hands have never failed. Those hands that stretched wide on the cross have carried more than you ever will. Those hands hold the power to turn mourning into dancing, ashes into beauty, sorrow into songs of praise. You may ask, but how do I surrender it all? It begins with honesty. Be honest with God. Tell him what you are afraid of. Tell him what you are holding on to. Tell him why you cling to it so tightly, and then choose not by feeling, but by faith to place it at his feet. Some burdens are laid down in an instant. Others must be laid down again and again, day after day, moment by moment, until your heart learns to rest in trust. Perhaps you carry the burden of forgiveness. Someone wronged you deeply, and your heart cries for justice. The wound is real, the pain is real, but holding on to that bitterness poisons the soul. Forgiveness does not excuse the wrong. It does not pretend it did not hurt. It simply places the offender into God's hands, trusting him to judge rightly, to heal fully, to redeem completely. Many have found that the moment they truly forgave, the bitterness lost its power and peace took its place. That is a burden turned into blessing. Perhaps you carry the burden of regret. You replay past mistakes, wishing you could rewrite history, but no amount of remorse can change what has been. When you surrender your past to God, you allow him to use even your failures for his purpose. He wastes nothing. What was once your deepest shame can become your greatest testimony. The cracks in your story are where his light shines through. Or maybe your burden is fear of tomorrow, fear of the unknown, fear that you will not have enough, be enough, do enough. Fear is a cruel master. It promises control but delivers torment. When you surrender your future to God, you trade fear for faith. You trust that the same God who holds the stars in place holds your tomorrows too. Peace does not come from knowing how every detail will unfold. Peace comes from knowing the one who writes your story. The blessing of surrender is not always seen overnight. Sometimes God's work is quiet and hidden, like seeds germinating beneath the soil. But in time, the fruit will come, the weight will lift, the joy will return, the freedom will break through, and you will look back and see that what you thought would break you actually built you. What you released did not leave you empty, but opened you to receive far more than you ever imagined. So today, lay it all down, the bitterness, the fear, the regret, the control. Hold nothing back. Trust that when you surrender it all, he will not leave you empty-handed. He will take your burden and transform it into blessing. He will give you beauty for ashes, strength for weakness, hope for despair. And in that sacred exchange, you will discover the life you were always meant to live, a life unburdened, a life abundant, a life surrendered and free. Your breakthrough does not begin with more striving, more effort, more worry. It begins when you kneel in faith and say, Lord, I give it to you. Take my burden and make it a blessing. Take my weakness and show your strength. Take my story and write it for your glory. And when you do, you will find rest for your soul and a joy that no burden can steal away. There comes a time in every life when the battles we face feel too fierce for our own strength. We stand at the edge of our limits, surrounded by giants of fear, worry, and uncertainty, wondering if we have what it takes to keep fighting. We put on our brave face for the world, but inside we know the truth we are weary. We have swung our sword so many times that our arms feel heavy, and still the mountain seems too high, the enemy too strong, the night too long. It is in that place of weariness that a greater truth comes alive. The breakthrough you seek does not begin with the strength of your own hands, but with the courage to trust God with your battles. Life has a way of teaching us that not every fight is ours to win on our own. Some battles are bigger than our wisdom, deeper than our pockets, heavier than our hearts can bear. Some storms come not to destroy us, but to drive us to our knees. It is there, in the posture of surrender, that faith rises. It is there, when our eyes lift off our enemy and fix on the one who has never lost a battle, that we find the courage to stand firm. When you trust God with your battles, you declare that the outcome no longer rests on your strength alone. You place it in the hands of the Almighty, whose ways are higher than your ways, whose thoughts are greater than your thoughts. You are not giving up the fight, you are giving up the illusion that you must fight alone. There is an old story of a king surrounded by enemies on every side. His army was outnumbered, his resources were few, and his people were afraid. But instead of rallying his troops to a reckless charge, he did something that seemed foolish in the eyes of the world. He fell on his face before God. He prayed, Lord, we do not know what to do, but our eyes are on you. And God answered. The enemy turned on itself, and the battle was won before the king's army ever lifted a sword. That is what happens when faith becomes your weapon. Victory is secured by the power of the one who fights for you. Trust does not mean you sit idle. It means you move forward in obedience even when you do not see the whole picture. It means you put one foot in front of the other, not because you know every twist and turn ahead, but because you trust the one who goes before you. Faith is not blind, it sees more clearly than fear ever could. Fear sees the size of the giant, faith sees the size of your God. Some people spend their lives exhausted, swinging at battles that were never theirs to fight alone. They try to fix every problem, control every outcome, protect everyone they love from every harm. They lie awake at night replaying what they should have said, what they could have done, what might happen if they fail. Worry is a heavy sword, and it wounds the one who wields it most of all. But there is another way, the way of trust. When you trust God with your battles, you trade the weight of worry for the gift of peace. You lay down your sword and pick up the shield of faith. Faith does not promise an easy road. Sometimes God will calm the storm, and other times he will calm you in the midst of it. Sometimes he will part the sea, and other times he will give you the strength to swim across it. But in every moment he is with you. He has promised never to leave you nor forsake you. He will not abandon you to fight alone. When you trust God with your battles, you stop measuring your odds by what you see and start believing in what he has spoken. Maybe the doctors have said there is no hope. Maybe your finances say you will never get out of debt. Maybe your marriage looks like it cannot be restored. But God is not limited by human reports, human resources, or human reasoning. He is the God who makes a way where there is no way, who brings water from a rock, who calls the dead to life. There is a quiet strength in those who trust God with their battles. They do not crumble when the winds blow, for they are anchored in the rock. They do not run from the fight, for they know they do not stand alone. They do not despair in the waiting, for they know that God's timing is perfect and His ways are good. They have learned the secret that faith is not a feeling but a choice to believe that He is who He says He is and that He will do what He has promised to do. Trusting God with your battles does not mean you will never feel fear. It means you refuse to let fear be the loudest voice in your heart. It means that when the enemy whispers you are not enough, you remember that the one within you is greater than the one who stands against you. It means that when your strength runs out, His strength is made perfect in your weakness. Some of the greatest breakthroughs come not when the circumstances change, but when you do. You rise up from the place of worry with a new confidence, knowing that victory is not about you proving yourself, but about Him proving Himself faithful. You walk into the battle singing songs of praise, not because you see the victory yet, but because you know the one who holds it in His hands. Faith is the bridge between your struggle and your breakthrough. It carries you over the waters of doubt, over the valleys of despair, over the mountains that stand in your way. Faith says, I may not see it yet, but I know my Redeemer lives. I may not understand it yet, but I know He is working all things together for my good. I may not feel strong enough, but I know that when I am weak, He is strong. Today, you may be standing at the front lines of a battle that feels impossible. You may be tempted to give up, to give in, to run away. But what if your breakthrough is closer than you think? What if the only thing standing between you and the victory you long for is the courage to trust God with it all? Lay down your fear, lift up your eyes, place your battle in His hands, and stand firm, knowing that He has never lost a fight, and He will not start now. So take heart, my friend. Trust Him with your battles, and you will see what only faith can unlock a break. Through greater than your strength, bigger than your plans, more beautiful than you ever imagined. For the battle is not yours alone. It belongs to the Lord. There comes a point in every life when the walls we've built with our own hands begin to close in around us. We spend our days carefully arranging each brick, our plans, our ambitions, our desires for how life should unfold, believing that if we build it strong enough, high enough, wide enough, we can protect ourselves from every disappointment, every loss, every storm. But somewhere along the way, we discover the truth that no wall built by human hands can keep out the unexpected. No fortress of our own design can hold back the winds of life. We like to hold on to control because it feels safe. It feels like power in a world that is so unpredictable. We plan our calendars to the minute. We guard our finances like a fortress. We rehearse our conversations in our minds. We grip our loved ones so tightly that sometimes we squeeze the life right out of the moments meant to be cherished. We do this because deep down our hearts are afraid of what will happen if we let go, afraid of what might fall apart if we loosen our grip. But if you stand still for a moment and look back over your life, you will see that the greatest moments of blessing, the greatest breakthroughs, the sweetest miracles did not come when you had everything under your command. They came when you stepped aside and let God be God. They came when you lifted trembling hands and said, I cannot do this on my own anymore. They came when you released your tight hold on the reins and trusted that the one who holds the stars can surely hold you. Some people spend their whole lives running on a treadmill of worry, wearing themselves thin trying to make everything line up perfectly. They try to fix what they never broke. They try to control what was never theirs to manage. They lie awake at night replaying conversations, regretting what they did or didn't say, wondering what they could have done differently to bend life in their favor. All the while, they miss the peace that comes when you simply let go. There is a freedom that comes when you finally open your hands. It is like unclenching a fist that has been tight for so long that your fingers ache. When you release control, you do not lose your life, you find it. You find it in the stillness that follows a whispered prayer of surrender. You find it in the quiet confidence that settles over your soul when you realize you don't have to carry this burden alone. You find it in the calm that comes when you stop fighting for your way and start trusting in a better way, His way. Time and time again, the stories of Scripture remind us that heaven moves when earth surrenders. A barren woman releases her bitterness, and a son is born who will lead a nation. A trembling man stutters out his excuses at a burning bush, but lays down his fears and watches an entire people walk free from bondage. A mother places her precious baby in a basket and releases him into the unknown waters of the Nile, and that child grows up to deliver his people from slavery. The pattern is clear. When we release control, heaven releases miracles. You see, control is rooted in fear. We believe that if we hold tightly enough, if we plan perfectly enough, if we never let our guard down, we can keep pain at bay. But the truth is, life is bigger than our hands can hold. Control becomes a prison. It locks us inside our own limitations. It blinds us to what could be if only we would let go. Surrender, on the other hand, opens the floodgates of heaven's power. It says, I trust that you know better. I trust that you see what I cannot see. I trust that you are for me even when life feels against me. Some people think surrender means weakness, but it takes far more courage to let go than to cling in fear. It takes faith to stand before your greatest worry, your deepest hurt, your unanswered questions, and say, I lay this at your feet. Do what only you can do. When you release control, you make space for miracles to grow. A clenched fist can hold only what it already has. An open hand is ready to receive what heaven wants to give. Some of you are praying for God to do a new thing while you cling to the old with white-knuckled fists. Some are asking for fresh vision while refusing to let go of yesterday's disappointments. Some long for healing but will not release the bitterness that poisons the soul. Miracles begin in the letting go. They begin in the quiet moments when you say, I will trust you with my family. I will trust you with my health. I will trust you with my future, my past, my present. I will stop trying to write every line of this story and instead place the pen back in the author's hands. I have known people who spent years striving for something they thought would complete them the perfect job, the perfect marriage, the perfect house on the hill. They wore themselves out trying to force open doors that were never meant for them. But when they finally laid it all down and said, if not this, then something better, they found that heaven had a plan so much greater than they could have imagined. When you release control, you do not drift aimlessly on the winds of chance. You place your life into the hands of the one whose plans are good, whose love is perfect, whose power knows no bounds. You discover that his timing is better than your deadlines, his provision greater than your paycheck, his peace deeper than your understanding. There will always be voices that whisper, if you don't hold on, you'll lose everything. But there is a stronger voice that says, if you let go, you will gain what you could never achieve alone. You will gain peace that the world cannot steal. You will gain strength that you never knew you had. You will gain a testimony that points to the power of a God who still works wonders in surrendered lives. It does not mean you never plan or prepare. It means you plan with open hands. You prepare your heart to move when he says move and wait when he says wait. It means you learn to live free from the illusion that you are the master of your fate, and instead rest in the truth that you are held by the one who created you for a purpose far greater than your own plans could ever hold. So if you feel weary from trying to control what you cannot change, if your heart is tired from wrestling with questions that have no answer yet, if your spirit aches for rest, open your hands, release it, lay it at his feet, and watch what happens when heaven releases miracles you could never have made happen on your own. There is freedom waiting for you. There is peace that passes all understanding. There is joy that bubbles up even in the middle of the storm. And there are miracles, yes, miracles on the other side of your surrender. When you release control, heaven releases miracles. And in that holy exchange, you will find life more abundant than you ever dared to dream. There comes a time in every believer's journey when you stand at the edge of something more, a new level of purpose, a deeper place of peace, a greater measure of power than you have ever known before. And yet you feel the weight of a wall standing between you and the life you sense in your spirit. You pray for a breakthrough, you long for it, you talk about it, you plead for it in the quiet places of your heart. But here is a truth so many miss. That next level you desire will not come by striving harder or doing more. It comes when you kneel in surrender. So many of us have spent years asking God to open doors, to lift us higher, to break the chains that hold us back, yet we grip those very chains with our own hands. We want the blessing, but we hesitate to lay down what is required to receive it. We hold tight to our pride, our plans, our fears, our grudges, thinking they protect us or give us an edge in a world that often feels unkind. But the kingdom works differently. In the kingdom, surrender is not defeat, it is the only pathway to victory. There is a holy place where battles are won and lives are changed forever. It is not a grand stadium filled with cheering crowds. It is not a boardroom where strategies are drawn up. It is not a mountaintop where you stand alone in triumph. No, it is an altar, a humble place where your will bows to the will of the one who knows you better than you know yourself. This altar is not always made of wood and stone. Sometimes it is the kitchen floor where you kneel with tears streaming down your face, or the driver's seat of your car when you finally let the tears fall and whisper, "I cannot do this on my own anymore." At that altar, you bring what you have clung to so tightly. You bring your need to be right, your need to be seen, your need to control every outcome. You bring your wounds and your failures, your secret sins and your hidden insecurities. You lay it all down, not because you are giving up on life, but because you are giving in to the life that God has prepared for you. It is an exchange, your brokenness for His healing, your fear for His courage, your weakness for His strength. Surrender is not a one-time event. It is a daily posture of the heart. Every morning you wake up with a choice to carry the burdens yourself or to place them in the hands that formed the heavens and the earth. Some days you will have to surrender the same thing over and over again. You may lay your worry down at dawn only to pick it up again by lunch. But do not be discouraged. Keep coming back to that altar. Keep bringing it back until it stays there. Heaven honors a heart that keeps surrendering. There are levels in your faith that you will never reach until you learn to let go. There are blessings waiting with your name on them that cannot reach you while your hands are full of yesterday's idols. There are dreams God wants to breathe life into, but they will remain on the altar of what might have been until you say, "Lord, not my will, but yours be done." Think of Abraham standing on that mountain with his promised son. Isaac was not just a boy, he was the fulfillment of years of waiting, the answer to a prayer that once felt impossible. And yet there he stood, willing to lay his dream, his miracle, his future on the altar because he trusted that God was able to do exceedingly abundantly above all he could ask or think. And at that altar of surrender, Abraham did not lose his son. He found the faith that carried him into a covenant that blesses you and me to this very day. What is your Isaac? What is that thing you cherish so deeply that the very thought of losing it makes your heart tremble? Maybe it is your reputation, the image you have worked so hard to build. Maybe it is your plan for how your life should go, step by step, detail by detail. Maybe it is your unforgiveness, yes, Some people hold on to their bitterness like a security blanket, believing it keeps them safe from being hurt again. But my friend, that bitterness is not your shield, it is your chain. It binds you to your past and keeps you from stepping into the freedom that has already been purchased for you. At the altar of surrender, you discover that you were never meant to carry the weight of your own life alone. There is a freedom that flows when you finally say, I trust you more than I trust myself. I trust your ways above my ways. I trust your timing when my own clock is ticking loud in my head. I trust your love when fear whispers that I am not enough. When you surrender, you make room for the Spirit of God to do what only He can do. You stop striving to make things happen and start seeing miracles unfold that you could never have orchestrated in your own strength. You stop wrestling for position and start walking in purpose. You stop fighting for scraps at the world's table and realize you are a child of the King, invited to sit at His feast. The next level of your calling, your peace, your breakthrough is not locked behind some impossible door. It is waiting on the other side of your surrender. You do not have to understand every step to take the first one. You do not have to see the whole map to trust the guide. The path may lead you through valleys and shadows, but the hand that holds you never lets go. I have seen it time and time again in the lives of broken men and women who laid it all down at the altar of surrender. The addict who finally said, I can't fight this anymore, I give it to you. The parent who released a prodigal child into the hands of the one who loves them even more than they do. The husband who let go of his pride and watched his marriage bloom back to life. The weary soul who said, I am tired of pretending, Lord, have all of me, even the parts I am ashamed of. Every story of true breakthrough begins there, not with a display of human strength, but with a moment of holy surrender, not with a proud heart saying, I can do this on my own, but with a humble spirit whispering, I need you every hour. So today, if you feel the stirring in your soul that there is more for you, do not be afraid of the altar. Do not be afraid to lay it all down. Your next level awaits not in your striving, but in your surrender. Bring Him your plans, your dreams, your scars, your fears. Place them at His feet. Leave them there. And watch as He lifts you to heights you never imagined, carries you through storms you thought would break you, and writes a story through your life that will echo His goodness for generations to come. Your breakthrough does not begin when you finally have it all together. It begins when you finally give it all to Him. And when you do, you will find that the altar is not a place of loss. It is the doorway to the life you have been longing for all along. So today, stand at that sacred place and lay it all down. Let your worries, your fears, your plans, your pride fall like heavy stones at the altar of surrender. Trust that what you release, God redeems. What you sacrifice, He multiplies. What you entrust to Him, He transforms for your good and His glory. Your next level is waiting on the other side of your willingness to say, not my will, but yours be done. Walk forward in faith, knowing your breakthrough begins not with more striving, but with open hands and a surrendered heart. That is where true freedom lies.